All right, what's going on, everybody? Kevin here from Top Dog Advertising, and I have another awesome client success interview here with one of our clients, Bailey Clark from Clark's Canine Training. And Bailey was kind enough to come on today to kind of just tell us about his experience working with us and what it's been like for him thus far, like running his company and just like the massive growth that he's seen. So, Bailey, why don't you just kind of kick it off, man? Introduce yourself, tell everyone a little bit about you and kind of how you got started as a trainer.
Okay. Well, it kind of was like by happenstance as far as I'll try and make it quicker and not draw it out too long, but like a little over 5 years ago, my cousin ended up getting a Presa Canario. Um, so for the trainers, they'll know, pretty serious dogs, pretty big dogs, as well, easily 150 pounds, for a lot of them and everything like that. I'd never heard of the dogs before, but just like all of a sudden got super interested. I'm the type of person also that like I will go through and down the deepest rabbit holes. Like whenever something like gauges my interest, oh, I'm all in it. For at least the next month, I'm going to be on YouTube University, like learning
Wow.
so much information about it, you
Yeah.
know. And so I did that with this dog, and then it ended up just kind of taking me down like the whole training aspect.
Mhm.
And so like that's kind of what kicked off my journey. And then of course, my cousin that got that dog, he started having behavioral issues with him and everything like that, which even like sparked my interest even more. I was like, it got me into like the behavior mod side of things
Yeah.
where I was like, oh wow, this is a whole nother world. and
Yeah. Yeah.
um but yeah, so I mean, that's just like what got me interested in training. And I really just from there would do it kind of here and there with my own dogs, maybe with friends and family and stuff like that. I ended up going off to college thinking that, I would like to have my dog training business one day, but, maybe that's a down the road thing. Let me go to college. Quickly
Yeah.
realized that college was not for me, in my personal opinion. And I think college is a scam like a unless you're going to be like a doctor or a
Yes.
lawyer or
Yeah,
an
yeah, I agree.
engineer or like
Just like
outside.
just a general degree, business degree or something like that. It's like, what
Yeah,
does that even necessarily mean, you know?
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's a whole nother rabbit hole I could go down, but
Yeah. Well, just to
um,
just to say on that for a second, like, yeah, I mean, I mean, I have a college degree. I went to and got a business degree, but I do agree with that because like at the end of the day, you think about the amount of money you put into college and like, you take out in student loans or, if your parents were kind enough to help you or had the ability to or something like that. It's like nowadays, like college tuition is like, 50 grand, 60, 70 grand, depending on where you're going. It's like, even if it's on the lower end, it's 50 grand. It's like
yeah,
4 years, like you're probably in for $250,000 all said and done between like all the other stuff you got to buy. It's like, what would happen if
yeah,
you started a business with 250 grand? Like, think about what you would
yeah,
do,
dude.
you know?
It's insane. Like it took me almost finishing out my college career to realize that it was
Yeah.
BS, unfortunately. So I acquired a ton of college debt,
Yeah.
because of that and still have it. But yeah,
Not for
it's
long, dude.
Oh
Not for
yeah,
long
no,
with the
not
months
for
you're
long.
having.
Finally going to
Yeah.
be able to actually pay that off. We can get
Yeah.
into that, but yes, I mean, I'm this same thought process on like if I were to spend the amount of money, like I've got like 60 grand in college debt. If I were
Hmm.
to go and spend 60 grand,
Hmm.
forget even investing into a business plan. If I were to just go and spend 60 grand with mentors, with
Hmm.
people that have been where I would like to go. They've already done it. They've already experienced it. They already have the roadmap on how to get there. They can show me their pitfalls. And it's not learning from a textbook, it's learning from someone who actually done it. You're not learning
Yeah.
theory, not to mention this theory's being outdated because the world's growing so quickly right now in this day and age with
Yeah.
technology and AI and everything like that. The stuff you're learning in the textbook in the college classroom is outdated before you ever even graduate. So
100%.
you can learn, if I were to spend that money and go and learn from masterminds of people that are doing way more successful things than any college professor has ever attempted to do. Like
Yeah.
the amount of extra value that I would get is astronomical. And I know that just from spending a couple $1,000s with
Yep.
sales mentors and going to seminars and stuff like that. Like literally
Yeah.
just spending a fraction of what I spent at college, I've learned exponentially more.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing. I've
Yeah.
had multiple people in my family that, that are younger than me that are talking about going to college, and I'm like, why? I'm,
Yeah.
why? Tell me right now.
Yeah.
Because if it's anything outside of like a handful of jobs, it's like it's not worth it. And to me,
Exactly.
unless you just have a passion to do the other jobs, I still don't think that it's worth it. Like unless you just have a passion to want to become a doctor or something like that, it's still not worth it. Because I mean, even with a doctor, you're going to acquire hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt more than likely with how long you're going to have to go to college to do that, just to then have to go through residency for multiple years, just to then have to have a bunch of experience to hopefully one day, like 10 years down the road, open up your own practice. And, it still take you what, another 10 years, you're 20 years in before you end up being able to pay everything off. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at it from a financial standpoint, it just doesn't make sense. So, I mean, if you have a passion, of course, follow that, do what you like to do. But
Yeah. 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 No, I agree, man. And it's kind of like you just got to get your first job. Like my dad was the president of a company for years, and he always said that. He's like, it's just about getting the first job. And usually, let's be honest, like the way you get your first job is by somebody that you know. It's usually a referral. Hey, like I work in this department, I can put in a good word for you, and we can get you started here and stuff as long as you interview well. But usually after that, like people don't really care about like what your GPA was and like what you majored in. It's like what did you do in the last job? If you want to go that route and kind of like work in corporate America anyway. But yeah, dude, I mean, this is something that's really unique about you and something that I love about your story and you and I have connected on. It's like I've paid for a lot of mentorship over the years. I've done a lot of coaching programs, and a lot of people look at it through the lens of like what they're going to spend on it, and not in the through the lens of what they're going to make in return. And so one of the best things I think you personally, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, have invested in is like your ability to sell. Like you invested a lot of money in mentorship and going to seminars on how to sell because you used to work in car sales. So why don't you talk about that, man? Because I feel like that's a really cool part about your story. And since you had all that experience from like a previous career, you were able to transition so seamlessly into selling dog training because a lot of the time sales is sales. And if you know how to do it, you can sell one thing, you can sell another thing.
100%, I definitely agree with that. And I mean, so within I'll tie it back to what I was saying to kind of flow into my sales journey and where that's taken me. But so about 3 years in the college, which while I was in college, I was kind of starting to realize that it wasn't for me. And so I
Mhm.
started trying different things. I mean, I looked into everything. I was having terrible shiny object syndrome where I was just jumping from thing to thing, trying drop shipping.
Oh,
I tried,
dude, yeah, yeah, I did the same stuff for a while too. Yeah,
dude,
wait,
trying
so go down the list, dude. What else did you do?
drop shipping, wholesaling real estate, getting
Yeah.
into the creative finance space inside of real
Mhm.
estate too.
Yeah.
Um, the whole like subject to and owner financing and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I mean, I was working with people on teams with that, thinking I was going to get contracts in place and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that those aren't legitimate things. I'm just saying that if
Mhm.
you're going to do them, you got to go full in. And like, I'm like
Exactly.
dipping my toes in the water because there's plenty of
Yep.
people that are successful doing drop shipping, doing day trading, doing wholesaling, doing real estate investing. Like there's plenty of people that have been majorly successful in those things, but I
Yeah.
was kind of just dipping my toes in them, having the shiny object syndrome, realizing that it was more work and more difficult than I thought, and then I would jump to the next thing.
Yeah.
So, and then so throughout that process, I ended up, and I'm like deeply studying all the time on different things, and I ended up getting a video on YouTube about selling cars and sales. Um, and at first, I was just kind of like, I mean, that's interesting. The guy I was watching, I was like, this guy's pretty good. Like, I'm not even in the market for a car, but like,
Not
that
like I don't
was,
want
yeah, I was like, that was smooth.
Yeah.
I was like, I like that,
Yeah.
and so like that kind of piqued my interest. And so I started watching a little bit more of his content and everything like that. And then as I started watching more of his content, I was like, this guy's really good. Like, I can see that this is a very valuable skill to have, and not just within the car industry, but just a skill to have in general. Like being able to, he talks about it a lot, being able to master a stranger. you know,
Mm,
being able to go up to somebody that you have no experience or previous relationship with and just being
mhm.
able to spark a conversation, getting them talking, and within a few minutes making them feel like y'all have known each other your whole life and y'all are super close, right? The
Yeah.
ability to master a stranger, he talked about that, and I was like, dude, that is like invaluable. Like if you
Yeah.
could just master that, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, like
Yeah.
you are automatically at the top of the totem pole because
Exactly.
I mean, people nowadays, like they struggle with just the basics of being able to talk to people, being able to have
Yeah.
basic conversations. You know, they're socially awkward or, whatever it may be, which a lot of people unfortunately fall into this state of mind of that's just how I am. But
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is it's a skill, like
Yeah.
I wasn't born that way and neither are you. I had to learn how
Yeah.
to acquire those skills. And I did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I did that through learning about sales from this guy. And so I'm in college, stumble across this, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. So I go and interview at a car dealership, which he had a video on how to get hired on the spot, which I watched like 100 times over and
That's
practiced
awesome.
exactly what he said,
Yeah.
like sitting there doing it with now's my wife at the time, my girlfriend. I'm like
Hmm.
practicing it and everything. And I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna have this down packed, right? And so I go in there, I do it, I get hired on the spot. I'm like, all right, this works.
Yeah.
you know?
That's
Um,
awesome, dude. Wait, hold on. What? Give me some nuggets of gold there. So, like, what do you remember from that video and that whole process? Like, what was it that allowed you to build that connection and get them to trust you to hire you on the spot?
so which I don't think it's a crazy thing in the car industry looking back on it. They will hire pretty much anyone in the car industry, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I definitely see that like the bar was raised with me and they immediately were able to tell that I was different. And I think it came from his advice of, going in there, being confident, giving good eye contact, don't be socially awkward, give them a nice handshake and everything like that. Be willing to start conversations and everything like that. But I think the biggest thing was his fact of going in there and saying like, hey, I've already been working on this, like I've been practicing word tracks, I've been practicing on handling objections even though I don't even have this job yet because
Hmm.
I see the value in that. So I've already been investing in myself, and not only that, I'm extremely coachable.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm willing to learn. I realize that this is an area that I have not mastered, but I'm willing to learn and willing to put in the work to learn. So, if you're willing to coach me, I'm willing to receive that coaching and take to it and, be the person that you need me to be, you know?
Wow. That's awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, think about all everyone who's listening to this. If you're a business owner, like that's the type of person that you would like to hire. It's like, hey, I see what you're doing here. I know what the position's going to require of me, and I'm already investing my time and energy before I already have the job. It's like that's an ideal employee to have on your team.
Yeah, 100%. Um, but yeah, so I mean, got hired on the spot doing that. And then, uh, I thought that I knew a little bit about sales, quickly realized that I knew nothing about sales.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, hold
and
on. Let's talk about that for a second. What were your misconceptions? And then, like, what did you learn? Like, what did you think was important? What did you think you needed to be like or do to be successful? And then what was the kind of like reality that check that you got?
So I think that it was really just, and I'm so thankful that I started in the car industry. And in my opinion, it is the best industry to start in because
Yeah.
in every other industry, people have some level of trust with you. Whereas with
Mhm.
this one, they start off hating you because there's so many negative connotations to
Yeah.
the slimy car salesman, right? So
Yep.
people come in with this connotation, this negative connotation of who you are off the bat.
Mhm.
And so now you have to take them from this negative standpoint all the way up to like loving you and trusting you in order to make the sale because if they don't feel like they like know and trust you, they're not going to buy from you. And
Yeah.
so you have a much further gap you have to kind of overcome as a car salesman compared to other sales positions like this, for
Yeah.
example, as a dog trainer. Like I walk into the house them already trusting me to a certain
Hmm.
degree, right? Obviously they're not like over the moon about me just off not knowing anything, but there's a certain level of just already trust established because they don't have this negative connotation that I have to overcome and then build upon. So it's
Right.
so much easier. But I think the misconception that I had was just that it was just going to be like a pretty cut and dry process. And that I was just going to be able to go in, say certain things, and like people were just going to be like, okay, and then sign away. And like you have those people, they're considered laydowns in the car industry because
Right.
they just come in and they're like, "Yep, don't care, sign." You know?
They've already like researched the car. They already know which car they want to get. And they're like, I know generally speaking, within $1,000 or a couple $100, like what this is going to cost me.
Yeah, 100%. And they were they said that that's going to be about 10% of customers in the
Yep.
car industry, right? So about 10% of customers you'll have them. They're just going to come in and it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you do, regardless of what you do, they're going to buy. There's
Yeah.
another 10% of people that, regardless of what you do, they are not going to buy. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But that 80% in the middle, that is why you need to be a good salesperson. Because
Hmm.
being a good salesperson is what makes you be able to sell these 80% in the middle.
Yeah.
So you can either just have the 10% that are going to buy no matter what, and you're not going to be able to make a living, or you can increase your skills to be able to get 90% of people to be able to buy based on your skills, how good you are, how difficult the customer is. 10% of
Yeah.
people, doesn't matter what you do. But so I think my big misconception was that there were going to be a lot more people that were just going to be like, all right, and do it. But not only that, I think my biggest misconception was just that as long as I remained like ultra friendly during the whole process, they're just going to like me and then they're just going to want to do it. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that sometimes you have to call people out and sometimes you have to have difficult conversations or say certain things that maybe seem kind of edgy. But if you don't say those things and call their bluff, you're not going to sell them. And the thing
Yeah.
is so you can either not say anything and not sell them, or you can say something and at least have the chance to sell them.
Right.
Maybe you say something and they still don't buy, or maybe they say something and don't typically like that response. But if you just are like okay and you let them go, then you have a 0% chance of selling them. So
Yeah, for sure, man.
I quickly had to learn that um, people sometimes have to hear the hard truth, like right there in the moment, you know,
Yeah.
in order to kind of push them past and make that sale, because they'll be in denial and they'll sit there and make excuses. And like as a salesperson in the back of your head, you're sitting there thinking, like, that's not true. Like, I know that's not
Mhm.
true because of our previous conversations that we've had. And you're just kind
Yeah.
of making that up. So if you just let that slide because you're like, well, I don't want to offend you or try to maybe call you out in that moment, then they're gone.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
if you can find a way to push through that in a in a good way, obviously don't be like you're full of crap, you know.
Stop lying to me.
Yeah, like don't do that. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're not going to sell them.
Yeah.
But if you can kind of walk around it in a certain way with your word choice to kind of let them know like, hey, I know that that's not really the case. And then, you know, they refer to them as smokescreen objections in car sales. People would be given a smokescreen. They would just say something that's not really true and it's not really a true objection. You had to be able to overcome that to find the real objection. And then when
Right.
you found the real objection, then you could handle that. So I think that was my biggest misconception was that, you know, I didn't realize how dishonest people that were going to be coming in were going to be with me
Yeah.
in certain situations. And I thought that I could just be like super friendly. People were just going to love me and they were going to do it. Um, and I'm not saying to be a dick. Like that's not what
Yeah.
I'm trying to get across, but I I think that it's just important to realize that you have to be able to be prepared to say certain things to people when they give you certain objections, or else you're never going to be able to push them past that line.
Exactly.
I think that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah. And, I think that I follow, or I'm part of a coaching community right now, and one of the coaches in there, Austin, he runs a sales coaching business himself, and he crushes when it comes to sales. And what he always says is like the human mind is not designed to make you happy; it's designed to keep you safe. And so when people come in and it's like all of a sudden we start talking about numbers and hey, this board and train is going to be $4,000 or this car is going to be $60,000 or something like that, that reptilian brain starts like coming through again and is like, stay safe. That used to be used to like protect you from like the saber tooth, that was gonna like eat you. And now it's like we have our own version of that today. And it's like, stay safe. And so even though there's this potential here for you to be happier in that new car, or like, your family's going to be safer because it's a safer car than the one you're currently driving or something like that. Or, hey, if I do this board and train program with my dog, my children, I don't have to worry about my kids around the dog anymore. I don't have to worry about, him jumping on the newborn baby or whatever it may be. It's like you still kind of can slip into, or they can still slip into like, I'm just going to hold on to that money. And so like how do you kind of like overcome that? I don't want to head into a totally different direction if you had a different thing you want to talk about there or finish up on, but I feel like this is kind of tied into what you're talking about there. So, what are your thoughts on that, Bailey?
So ask that one more time. How do I overcome what again?
More so like the when people kind of like you get them to that point where like you've done all like the nurturing of them and like warming them up and stuff like that, and you get them to that point where they hear the number, or you're going to close them, right? And
Mm.
they kind of start kind of like lying to you maybe about like, oh, we need to think about it, or I need to talk to my husband about it, or I'm going to get paid this Thursday and then I can pay you then, like all that stuff, because I'm kind of assuming like when you said like they won't tell you the truth, I'm assuming
Yeah.
that's kind of some of the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, 100%. I would consider all of those things just smoke screen objections. So it's something that they
Yeah.
throw up as a disguise for what they're actually not telling you is the
Yeah.
real objection, right? And
Yep.
so sales, or this isn't even really sales, actually, this is closing.
Yeah.
Closing is about being able to overcome those smoke screen objections to uncover the real objection and then handling that.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
the
Yep.
first step is to overcome those things though. And so like I always like to first start off being very agreeing with them, be like, hey, totally understand. Let's say, for example, I think a pretty common one for some people in the dog training world would be, oh, we just decided that we were going to wait for them to get a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
know, this is a smokescreen objection. Are they not wanting to do your service because they just want their dog to be older? No, they're just trying to give
Yeah.
you an excuse because there's actually something else there that's making them hold up. So you got to be
Right.
able to overcome that. Be like, hey, look, I totally understand. And you know, this isn't me trying to force you to do anything that you don't want to do. I'm here to help you however I can. But
Hmm.
that being said, I do this for a living, and in my professional experience, time never solves problems. Training does. Training is
Hmm.
how you solve those behavior problems. Time actually typically makes things worse because we're not doing the right training. And the longer they get to practice those bad behaviors, the worse they become. And then the more training you end up having to do because now you're not just teaching new behaviors, but you're actually having to get rid of worse behaviors that they've been practicing for a longer period of time. So I don't know if maybe it's the money or maybe it's the time commitment or what it may be that's kind of making you want to hold off and wait a little bit longer. But what I can tell you is actually getting started right now is going to be the cheapest opportunity for you because if you wait later and the problems get worse, we're going to have to do more sessions. It's going to take more time and it's going to cost more money. So, right now is the best time to get started to save you money, to save you time, and to do less work. So,
Absolute money, dude.
yeah,
Absolute money. Like that is like so well said, dude. And anybody who's listening to this, like write that down and study that. And because Bailey, I know for you, like something that you do extremely well, and you said this earlier on in this call, which is like I have my wife practice with me. Like give me objections and like have me say it out loud. If you don't have a partner or, a friend, everybody has somebody they could do this with. It's gonna feel super awkward. It's gonna feel bizarre, but it's worth it because good salespeople have this stuff like seared onto the front of their brain. It's not something that you need to think about in the moment where you're like, okay, what should I say to this? If
yeah,
you're there, what should I say to this? You've already lost. You've already lost
yep,
this. It needs to
100%.
be just like secondhand nature to you. Okay, here comes the price objection. I know exactly what I'm going to say. Or here comes I need to think about it objection. Or we need some time, the time objection. You need to think about it. But that right there, dude, was perfectly done. And I think you hit them on like all the right places. It's like, why? Because really, why do you need to wait? You want to get for the dog to get older? It's like, okay, what are you really doing? You're kicking the can down the road because you don't want to spend the money right now. 99% of the time, it comes down to the money for people, right?
Yeah.
So like you kind of like, shifted their mindset and reframed what they're thinking into like, hey, I know this is about money, even though I'm not going to say that to you. I'm not going to say, hey, tell me the truth,
Yeah.
it's about money, but you're really kind of hinting at the fact that like you're going to save money. So I think that's really good, man. And I
But not only that, like it could be money, it can be people not, wanting to do the time commitment that it's going to
yeah,
take, and it can be people afraid of the amount of work that it's going to take. So hit on all three, mention all three of them. That way,
yeah,
regardless of what it is, because it's pretty much going to be those three. Like
yeah,
it's one of those three that's making them want to be hesitant. And so just
yeah,
go ahead and hit all of them. So whichever it is, you're
yeah.
giving a solution to push them past it.
So well said, dude. I love that, man. Yeah. That right there is like, if you guys can kind of like implement that into your sales process, if you're struggling with like closing people right now, I would assume that if you can do that and do that well and not seem like contrived while doing it, I think that that'll give you a significant boost in conversions like right away.
I would totally agree with that 100%. And I mean, just do this. Like you were saying, I did practice with my wife a lot.
Yeah.
Every time that you go and do a consultation and you don't sell them, you need to be going and writing down what they said and or how they objected to you and go, okay, how can I overcome this next time?
Yeah.
Write you out a script of word by word how you would like to respond,
Yep.
and then just drill it
Yeah.
until like it sounds extreme, but uh, some of the coaching that I had, they would say you need to be able to spit these out, these word tracks out. If you're upside down being waterboarded, you should be
Yeah.
able to just, spit them out effortlessly. And that only comes with practice. Like if you're only doing it in the moment, or if you're not practicing and doing this role playing of events, you're never going to get there. And then you're going to stumble over your words. Stumbling over your words, what does that make it seem like? It means it seems like you're less professional, you're not really prepared, and it can give you this sales breath where people are
Yes.
just thinking that you're just trying to make a sale at this point. You're desperate, you're grasping for straws because you don't know what to say, and you're wanting them to sign up because obviously that's how you get paid. But since you're not prepared, now you seem desperate, you seem unprofessional, you don't seem as knowledgeable as someone
Yeah.
who, as soon as they hear that, they immediately have a response for it, and it's professional and it's not pushy. Like I wasn't calling them out directly, I was calling them out indirectly. I was like, hey, and first off, I'm like, hey, I totally understand, right? Like, makes sense. You wanting to wait and everything like that. And then I go back to, but, I do this for a living every day, and
Hmm.
I'm a professional. So go ahead and raising my status in their mind. And in my personal experience, that doesn't help things. It actually makes them worse. And
Exactly.
then go into the problems.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, have heard the objection handle too of um, okay, I need time to think about it. It's like, okay, well, you don't need time to make the decision. You need information to make the decision. And since I'm the only source of information, like what other questions can I answer for you? And everyone's watching the same sales content. And I'm not saying all the people you're selling to have heard this stuff, like, but I've heard a lot of people like, I think that's a popular way of handling objections. But I don't think it works as well as people think it does. I think what you just said is a way better way to go about it because you really kind of twist the knife on that pain point. Like, you think you have problems now, just wait, see what happens in 6 months if you kick the can down the road any further. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%, dude. Pain points is like you've got to drive in on those things because that's why they reached out initially in the first place. So
Yeah.
if you avoid them, then they're not going to be thinking about them and they're going to think that they can get away with it. Whereas if you keep hammering in on them, they're like, yeah, you're right. I need this. And then they
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's do this, man. I'm going to give you another one on the spot here, okay? I want to see how you
Oh,
handle this one.
all right.
The let's do just the general price objection. So someone's like, "Oh man, that's a lot of money. I'm just going to need to think about it."
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand. And I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. It is a lot of money. But the thing is that, or at least what I've found in my experience, because there are other people that you can go and they will do it cheaper, but good dog training isn't cheap and cheap dog training isn't good. And so I know the last thing that you want to do is go and find somebody at a cheaper price, sign up with them, and then not see the results that you're looking for. And then you end up coming back to me having to spend more money, not only a higher price because you're working with me, but you've already paid them, it didn't work, and now you're having to pay somebody else. So I understand that, yes, it's a little bit more money compared to some other people. And I get that. And I can obviously understand why you'd be a little bit hesitant. But really, working with somebody who's going to be qualified to actually solve your problems is going to save you money in the long run because it's going to save you money and it's going to save you time because now you're not spending the time, effort, and energy working with these other people that won't get you the results, and you're not wasting your money flushing it down the drain because you go work with them and then don't see the results that you want. So you're going to save time, effort, and energy, and you're going to save money working with me initially instead of doing this and kicking the can down the road. But that being
Mm.
said, I do offer payment plans too. So I understand that it can be, a pretty large investment at first. So I offer the payment plans. They can finance it. I work with a firm, Klarna or Afterpay. Any of those companies, they'll allow you to break it up anywhere all the way out to 24, maybe even 36 payments. That way you can find a monthly payment that's going to work for you and your budget. And that way you don't have to be limited to getting good dog training just because of the cost.
Money, dude. Money. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So well said. And I think just to kind of touch on that too, so many people they put themselves in an impossible position where they don't for whatever reason set maybe they don't know or maybe they just don't want to do it or they're whatever people drag their feet on everything but they don't set up these third party financing solutions for their own business like Affirm, Klarna, and Afterpay or PayPal Credit or Lending USA. There's a million of them, but I think those three, the first three I mentioned there, are really the best ones that I found in 2025 that work the best. And so what they're doing is they're forcing them into themselves into a situation where they need people to have all the money at once in order to get started with them. And there's that statistic that's like 60% of Americans don't have $1,000 at a given time sitting in their checking account. And I think it's actually higher than that. I heard somebody say like closer to like 70 recently. So when you just play the numbers and you're like, hey, I need $3,000 or $1,500 to get you started, it's like, yeah, well, that's all well and good, except they don't have the money, and it's a math equation, and the math doesn't math because they just don't have the money. So I think
Yeah.
that like you being able to say like, hey, we can see if we can get you approved. It's going to be you'll have 3 years to pay it off. It's like going to be like $100 a month or something like that, 50
Yeah.
bucks a month. It's like, dude, that makes it a no-brainer for them.
100%. I mean, that's a game changer whenever it comes to selling high ticket products, being able to break it up. Because the truth of the matter is, like you said, is some people just genuinely aren't going to be able to afford it. And you can have had them sold on the idea of working with you. And then
Yeah.
you get up to that point and they're just like, well, I can't, like
Yeah.
I
I
just
love
simply.
you. I want to work with you, but I can't do it.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
like, you've done everything right up to that process, but it's just the simple matter that they don't have that money. So, giving those payment options is how you can just overcome that. But I mean, even if they're still hesitant on that, I just go back to doing one last try of like hitting on the fact that this is an investment and that especially with my private lessons, I'm like, look, I'm focused on coaching you to become a trainer, and so it's not just an investment for this dog and the rest of this dog's life. This is an investment that you're making for every other dog that you get for the rest of your life because I'm teaching you what you need to do to train
Yeah.
this dog and every other one after it.
Yeah.
So
And dude, you said something very kind to me a couple weeks ago. I don't even know what if you realized what you were saying at the time, but you were like, we were on a group coaching call with a bunch of clients, and you were like, hey, I've done a lot of sales coach or yeah, a lot of sales coaching and training in the past. And you're like, the stuff in Kevin's course and the stuff that we talk about here is like spot on with the stuff that we're taught in the car sales world, which is like no pricing over the phone, bring them in, meet with them face to face, build rapport, and that way you just give yourself such a better opportunity to sell them if they give you objections. Because it's just way too easy over a phone call for people to be like, "Oh, that's a lot of money. Let me talk to my husband and call you back." Click,
you're
and you're
never
like,
hearing from them again.
"Yeah, done." So
Yeah.
like I mean, right now, like Bailey, remind me, what percentage of your leads are you closing right now? Like after the last like 10 consults you've done, like what percentage are closing right now?
I would say it's a pretty high number.
Yeah.
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I would say probably out of the last 10, I'd say probably a 70 or 80% closing rate.
Which is insane, dude. Like, even if we just average those two, we'd say 75%. Like, if you can walk into people's homes and 75% of the time, I'm going to get a yes for a program that's anywhere between even on the lower end, 800, 900, $1,000, all the way up to 4 or 5 grand. It's like who wouldn't play those odds all day long? It's like if you're playing a slot machine and you know I'm gonna win 75% of the time, you're like, I would just sit here 24/7 pulling the lever, you know?
100%
Yeah.
for sure.
So that's awesome, dude. But yeah, I mean, I think something that I really am taking away from this is it's a reminder that a lot of dog trainers spend so much time trying to become the best dog trainer possible. And they have no problem like investing in dog training courses and mentorships and stuff like that. So they feel confident training dogs, which don't get me wrong, is awesome. You know, you
Yeah,
should be able to be the best dog trainer you can possibly be. But I think that you need to put attention into becoming the best business owner and the best salesperson that you can possibly be too. Because you can be the greatest dog trainer in the world and have so much to offer to the world, but if you can't sell your product, you can't sell your training, then ironically, you're kind of depriving these people of the help that they should be able to get from you. Like I've heard somebody say that to me one time. It's a good way to look at sales. It's like you're not trying to force them into doing anything. You're trying to help them guide them to make the best decision for themselves and for their family and for their dog possible in this case, right? So if
yep,
you don't know how to overcome objections and you just kind of like lay down and just let them walk all over you and they don't get access to training and then they go and train somewhere else and they get crappy results, it's like this is going to sound harsh, but it's the God's honest truth. It's like shame on you, dude.
yeah,
You should
100%.
know to be how to be able to help those people, and you should be able to get them across the finish line. If you truly believe in yourself and your service and your product, it is on you as the business owner to be able to clearly communicate and make those people understand why they should use you over your competitor.
100%. Your lack of sales skills is doing a disservice to your customers.
Yeah,
Yep,
100%, man. Yeah.
I
So,
totally
dude,
agree.
let's talk about you and just like your experience. Because, dude, you've had just like this insane kind of like, kind of like rise here once you started working with us. So I know like you and I had been talking for months like, before you ended up pulling the trigger and you were waiting on a couple different things and stuff like that to get an order before you could even get started with us. But, dude, I mean, do you mind just kind of sharing your experience for like what it's been like since like, you started with Top Dog Advertising and what it was like before that compared to what it's like now?
Yeah, 100%, man. Um, so before I was really just dragging my feet and not committed to doing the full process. So I I started off, I was still selling cars and you know, I was making good money doing that and everything like that. But at the same time, I was like, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Mm,
It's just simply not what I would like to do. Um, and I really felt led um, to get started investing towards having a dog training business, which I had wanted previously, but I just knew that it was not the right time for it,
mhm,
previously. And so I made the decision because when I was selling cars, I was working 8 to 8 every day, 12-hour days, which I was fine with. But
mhm,
at the same time, it was like, well, I'm not going to be able to invest into my business at all, trying to get it started and up on its feet, working those hours. It's just
mhm,
not going to be possible. So I decided to go and be an assistant manager of a retail store just because I knew that it was going to give me more time.
mhm.
So, I mean, I took a big pay cut. Like, I was making a lot less doing
Mhm.
that than I was selling cars. And I was like, wow, this really sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I remember talking to you and you'd be like, I'm at work and like ducking outside to take the phone call and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. But
Yeah.
I knew that it needed to be done in order to give me the time to invest in my business. And but that being said, too, I was not doing the things that I should have been doing to the degree that I should have been doing investing in my business. Like I was really
Mhm.
dragging my feet and I kept kind of just having a milestone of like, okay, once we get here, then I'm going all in on the business. And
Yeah.
that milestone just kind of kept moving.
Yeah.
So it kind of just kept getting pushed out further and further until eventually I just got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm not making any money doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And um, at the same time, I'm kind of at a place. So I listen to Alex Hormozy a lot. And, one of the things that he says a lot of the times that I really like was, if you have nothing to lose, then what are you afraid of? Like, if you go and roll the dice and you try to do something and you have nothing to lose, you have nothing to lose. Like, why are you on the fence?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I was really sitting there thinking about it one day, and I was just like, dude, I have nothing to lose. I'm making barely any money right now doing something that I honestly really don't like to do.
Yeah.
And even though I don't feel like everything is just right to just jump and get started in the business and everything wasn't really aligned there, I was still just like, I mean, I have nothing to lose. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get started and learn as I go. And which is hard for me because I'm kind of a perfectionist in the sense of that I want everything to be just right and everything to be perfect before making that decision. And I would honestly say that's my biggest lesson that I've learned since starting this business just not even 2 months ago. And
Yeah.
I've already learned that the amount of information that you learn from just taking the step is astronomically higher than any amount of information that you can get out there online through
Yeah.
videos, through courses, through seminars, through any of that stuff. There's nothing that beats just taking the step, taking the lick on the chin of going, that didn't work, and then saying, okay, I'm going to do it differently this time.
Yeah.
Like next time, I'm going to be prepared. Next time, I'm going to handle it this way. Next time, I'm going to do this instead. And as well as, you know what, I can see how this is going to be really, really important for me to start implementing. Let me go ahead and start working on that. You learn none of that until you take the steps.
Right. Yeah. It's always it's no different than wanting to learn how to box and reading a bunch of books on boxing versus getting in the ring, you
Yeah,
know?
100%.
Like, am I gonna become a better free throw shooter, in basketball? Like if I shoot 1,000 free throws, or am I gonna be, better if I read Dr. James Naismith's, autobiography, the guy who invented basketball? It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
is it important to like, read and learn? Of course. But like at a certain point, there is a moment where like the rubber hits the road. And just to go back to something you said before, I think for a lot of people, myself included, the whole like I'm waiting for it to be perfect before I get started. There's that saying of don't let perfection get in the way of good enough. And what I've really kind of like realized for myself is like I've swapped out my thinking for it's got to be better, it's not ready yet, or I'm not ready yet to just like I'm scared. I'm scared it's not going to work. And so once
yeah,
you just like realize like, hey, I have a fear surrounding this, it's exactly what you were talking about and what Hormozy was saying of just dude, what do you have to lose? Even if you like, you can always go get another job. If you got one job, you can get a second one. And more than likely, if you lose that first job and 3 months later you want to go back, like they'd probably take you back, you know? So you really don't have that much to lose. And the really ironic thing is like if you're someone who's ambitious and willing to leave their job and put it all on the line to go make it work, it'll probably work more times
yeah.
than not, it works. Like if you do the things. And so you're a testament to that, man. Like with all of our clients, like I did not have to twist your arm whatsoever. When you first came in, you were just like, hey, this is exactly what I'm thinking as well. Let's get some leads. Let's set some consultations. Let's make some sales. So for you, dude, like, that's an awesome story just about like, how you were kind of like taking a couple steps back to put yourself in a position to be able to like really catapult yourself forward and have like a job where you could still kind of pay the bills with it, but took a massive pay cut, but now you have more time into the training. So do you mind kind of talking about like your experience and like what things are looking like now? Because you were saying to me before the call, it hasn't even been like a full 60 days yet. So like what does that look like for you, man?
So it looks really good. Much better than what I was doing, not only selling cars, but definitely where I was before I decided to jump full in. I
Yeah.
want to take a quick step back too, though, and just say that, like, I'm a big person of faith.
Mm,
And first off, um, it doesn't take any faith if everything's perfect.
yeah.
If everything's outlined and like you can see the entire process and it's like, okay, easy. This is exactly what to do. And this is going
Yeah.
to be the exact result from that. That requires zero faith. And so, in all the decisions that I've made in the past 5 years of my life that have led me up to this moment, I have been deep in prayer to be led to what decisions to make. And so, I know I've talked a lot about how I've invested in courses, seminars, and stuff like that, doing sales training and everything like that. And all of that is true and all of that is good.
Mhm.
But I just want to take a moment to say, first off, all the success that I've seen, all glory be to God. I mean, I couldn't do any of this without him. And I truly believe that he's led me these last 5 years to experience everything that I need to lead me to this point. And the only reason that I was willing to take that step of faith into doing this full time was because of him and how deep in prayer that I was for this. And just the fact that, I just told him, I was like, God, this isn't my business. This is your business, and I'm just a steward of it. And I just want to do with your business the best that I can do, right? Like, I want to be the best steward possible of your business. So help me in that and give me the right steps and everything like that. So I just wanted to take the moment before getting into how much better things were to give him the
Yeah.
glory, to give him the glory for that. Because this, yes, I do work, because faith without works is dead. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I wouldn't be here without him. So
Yeah.
I
Wow,
just
dude, I
want.
appreciate you sharing that, man. That's beautiful. And I feel the same. You and I have talked about this off camera too.
Mm,
And just, yeah, I mean, I feel the same way, man. I mean, I feel like, there's been really hard parts of my life. And, I believe in Christ, I believe in God. And I just feel like there's no doubt in my mind that like without him, like there's no way that I would be in a position that I'm in. I know there's people that listen to this that believe the same thing. I know there's people that are of different religions and people who don't believe at all. And so, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, like if this is your story, it's important to talk about because, leaving that part out would not be doing it a service. Or you would be doing it a
100%.
service, you know?
I mean, like, I'm not. I don't want to give myself any credit, and so
Yeah.
like, yes, I do work, but at the same time, like, it's him, no doubt. Like, I know that I am where I am right now because of him, and I know that the success that I've seen is because of him. And so for
Yeah.
me to go and take all the glory for something that he did in my life and not give any to him,
Yeah.
like, that's just a slap in the face to him. And like, I could never do that. So I just had to mention that. But
Yeah. Beautiful, man. Appreciate you doing that.
yeah. So with that being said, I've made more money in the last 2 months than I've ever made in my life. Um, so it's definitely life changing for me. And I know that there's a ton of clients that you work with that are making way more than me. And I've
Just
got,
wait, dude. Yeah.
oh yeah, no doubt. We're gonna get there,
Yeah.
100%, 100%. But um, with that being said, it hasn't been a full 2 months, and I'm sitting at about $22,000 in revenue for the last 2 months. So
Insane, man. Yeah. There's a lot of trainers out there who won't make that in a year. And your first 2 months, and not even full 2 months, getting plugged in, but just like solid advertising, a good process behind you, it's pretty amazing like how much can change in such a short period of time.
100%. And I just want to go back to highlight too for the people that may be hesitant or on the fence or trying to decide whether or not to work with you, just so y'all know on the sales process side of things. And Kevin did not tell me to say any of this, by the way. I'm not I'm not being paid or anything
Yeah.
like
You're
that.
not being held at gunpoint, right? We can
Yeah, yeah,
confirm that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just throw that in there real quick.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of money on sales content to learn. I mean, I've spent literally thousands of dollars to fly out to Arizona and do a weekend seminar of learning about sales, not to mention all of the courses that I've spent money on, the monthly subscriptions to have access to certain content. I've spent a lot of money. I've yet to hear one thing that Kevin has said that I disagree with in a sales process. Like, he has the sales process spot on. So he's not just somebody that's going to have leads coming in. So this will go back to like when I was doing this part time, I was working as an assistant manager and everything, hadn't pulled the trigger to go full time. I was helping people here and there, but it was literally just from word of mouth. So it was completely random. I had very, very little people that were actually reaching out just because it was basically me making a post on Facebook saying, hey, if you want some help, I'm willing to help you. And
Yeah.
so, very little action there. And um, man, I mean, he started doing the marketing and everything. The leads started coming in, and I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Under 2 months and at 22,000. But I just wanted to add that in there. Like, his sales process is spot on. So not only are you getting the lead flow to start coming in, where you can actually have the ability to sell people, but he's got the sales process down packed too. So if you're a dog trainer and you don't know about sales, then you can learn about it through those.
Yeah.
I mean, that sales coaching video is really good, and I think Leanne actually sent me something too, of some type of sales Bible or something that y'all created, which has some really good
Yeah.
content in there too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Angel just finished that up. Yeah, like we have that all sorted out. So, dude, I appreciate you saying that, man. I mean, that was a labor of love for me and trying to put as much value as I possibly could into that. And it's funny, when I first started this company, I was like, I'm just going to be a marketing agency, and then we're just going to generate leads for dog trainers, and that's it. But it's not. It's kind of my personality type. I'm sure you could relate to this too. It's like you start seeing other problems, and you're like, okay. I think a lot of times people think that they have a marketing problem, and they do. That's a big problem.
Mm.
But at the same time, it's like then you start getting leads, and if you're not closing them, it starts making you realize like, oh, there's a lot of other stuff here that I didn't necessarily realize was an issue, and now this is kind of like bringing that to light. So that's why we do all that stuff. We really try and focus with people on every aspect of the business because it's funny when people first come in and they're looking for marketing. I think they're looking at me like I have six heads. They're like, why are you talking about consultations? Like, can't we just talk
Yeah,
about, marketing? Why are you talking about sales? And it's like, because I can have the greatest marketing strategy in the world for you. If you can't take these people from cold to sold, into, just, hey, I want more information about your service, just generally inquiring to all the way through signing on the dotted line for a $4,000 board and train, we're not going to get very far. So, I mean, we focus on all that stuff as you're seeing, a CRM, marketing, because all of it matters. All that stuff it
100%.
all kind of works, on off of each other to kind of equal out to be a really profitable business.
Yeah, 100%. You're definitely not just getting the paid ads to be managed with
Yeah.
what you pay Kevin. You're getting the group coaching calls where you can get one-on-one advice, not with just Kevin, but members of his team. The members of his team aren't just, some random Joe. They're previous dog trainers that have done
Yeah.
this too, which is
Yeah.
it's definitely a huge help.
For sure, man.
Shout out to Leanne.
Yeah.
She's helped me out a ton. Um, Helped me and encouraged me and was there for me to increase my prices, which at
Yeah.
first I was like, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
I did it and I'm like, okay, now I've got less work for more money. That's pretty cool.
So awesome, man. Yeah.
So
Dude, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. I know I've had you for an hour here, so we can wrap things up. But I just want to say, man, like it's been incredible watching you just kind of have this like unbelievable start to your business, growing it this fast. And it's like, keep in mind, like there was a period of time where we're just building the ads too. So like we're not
yeah,
even 2 months in, like we're really talking about like weeks in the grand scheme of things that like the ads have been running and you've already done this much revenue. And so like, before this call started, we were talking about potentially the idea of hiring, getting another trainer on board and stuff like that. So there's some really cool stuff here to come for you, man. And I just know that like we'll definitely have to do another check-in video come another couple months to kind of like just tell everybody where you're at that point for sure.
yeah, for sure, man. Again, all glory be to God. Definitely couldn't do it without him. But yeah, the growth and the progress has been insane. Um, extremely thankful
Yeah,
for him and everything that y'all do for sure. Y'all are a ton of help in many different aspects. So
good,
it's
man.
been
Yeah,
awesome, man. I'm fired up about it, and I'm looking forward to the next call too because
yeah,
definitely on an upward trajectory, and I don't
yeah,
plan on stalling out any. So
yeah. I love it, dude. Yeah, well, the feeling is mutual, man. We love having you as a client. I mean, it's been just such a pleasure thus far. So I know there's some awesome stuff to come here. So with that being said, man, we'll wrap things up for right now. Hang on the call afterwards for a second with me. But I just want to say, like, thank you guys to all who are listening. If you guys ever need anything, you have any questions for us, like always feel free to drop them down below this video in the comment section, and we could definitely answer them for you. And if there's anybody or anything you want to hear about, make sure to drop that in the group because that's a good place for us to kind of see where you guys are at. If there's any problems you're facing in your business that you'd like for us to call or cover on one of these calls, we can certainly do that. So, with that being said, we're going to end things here, but I appreciate you guys and we'll see you guys all very soon in the next one. See you guys.